and welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and in today's video, we will be going over the month of January for 2024. Yes, we have a new year and lots of things going on, so let's get started. The first thing right off the bat, we have Mercury going direct. Yes, Mercury's been retrograde, so if you've been feeling frustrated with getting your point across or feeling that things are just taking a long time, this will help a lot. Now, on December 30th, we just had Jupiter go direct. So the first of the month, we're still going to feel this energy, right? And Jupiter's still in Aries and is making a trine aspect to several planets that will be piling up in Sagittarius. And we have the first new moon is actually going to be in Purva Ashada. And what's interesting is that the first half of January really is about a lot of planets Gandanta, going from the cusp of, Scorpio into Sagittarius. That's the Gandanta zone. Gandanta means it's a karmic knot that we must unravel before we go on to the next cycle. And it is a very well-placed knot at the end of a rope, and that karma must be unraveled before we can move on. But what's interesting is that it feels like we're drowning, right? Because it's going from a water sign into a fire sign. So, yeah, we've got that Gandanta energy. Mars is going out of combustion, so that's good. But, Rahu's in Pisces now, and I don't know if you've noticed, lots of things in the news about storms and the ocean throwing these rogue waves, right? Like the first one was the cruise ship, the Maud, which was in the North Sea. And if you're on TikTok, we've been flooded with these North Sea videos. Like, what the heck is going on? Why are they showing us all this stuff? And then in California, in Ventura County, all the way up to Santa Cruz, they've had crazy winds coming in from the Pacific from a big storm, and that's been making the waves just increase. I don't know how many times bigger than they usually are, but it's very strange. And I attribute this to Rahu being in Pisces now. So, the rest of the month is we've got our full moon in Cancer, Pushya, which is about nourishment. Yeah, we've just got, a lot of energy going on. And what's interesting about that first new moon on the 11th is that we've got a pile up in Sagittarius, and it's going to be in Purva Ashada, which is declaration of war. And so without further ado, let's get into a deep dive into what's going on this month. Okay, so let's get into it. January, Vedic Sidereal Astrology Forecast with Katya, myself. And if you're interested in booking a reading with me, you can go to hindustanastrology.com, click on the consultations tab, and there are several options. I don't just do Vedic astrology, I also do tarot and Reiki. So if you are interested in booking a session, that's where you go. All right, so right off the bat, we have Mercury going direct. He will be at 27 degrees, 59 minutes of Scorpio Jyeshtha Nakshatra, and he is Gandanta. So what does that mean? Well, when Mercury goes retrograde, he's slower in the sky, he's brighter, and he's asking us to focus on all things Mercury, especially when it comes to Scorpio and Jyeshtha. And what's that about? Research. Jyeshtha is actually ruled by Mercury. This nakshatra loves the occult, loves, studying alchemy and researching, getting to the bottom of a problem. People that have Mercury in Scorpio in their birth chart are like the great, investigative journalists, right? These are the people that also delve into the metaphysical, anything that has to do with deep transformation and change. So while Mercury's been here, I don't know about you, but I've been reading a lot of news articles, doing a lot of research on things that I did not know before. So having this happen on the first, him going direct, is showing us that I think a lot of new information is going to show up at our doorstep, literally. Um, and of course, I'm in the United States, so this is concerning us, right? Um, for the United States chart, Scorpio is the 12th house of foreign lands. And Lord knows we've got a lot of things going on in the world. So pay attention on the first to news articles that come out. January 7th at 10:46 a.m. EST, we have Mercury entering Sagittarius. So he's not retrograde, but now he's going into Sagittarius, and he will be Gandanta until he reaches 3.2 degrees. And like I said, Gandanta feels like you are emotionally losing it. You are drowning in emotion, and a lot of drownings actually occur during this time. I think we will continue to see these crazy waves off of California. You know, like I said, Rahu's in Pisces right now. And when we had the Titanic going down, it was when Rahu was in Pisces. So if you love cruise ships, if you love doing that kind of stuff, just, follow your intuition this year. If something doesn't feel right, don't go. We're going to see a lot of things going on with the oceans, the rivers, the weather, while Rahu is in Pisces. So just take note of that. But when Mercury goes into Sagittarius, Sagittarius is about the truth. It's about hope. It's about inspiration. It's about faith. And there's going to be, I feel, a lot of discussion around faith and maybe some hope coming back. I mean, I hope so. I hope hope is coming back. And this is because now we have Jupiter direct. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. He is guru. So I feel like our mindset is going to be a lot healthier coming into the new year, which, thank you, Lord. I hope that it continues to be more positive. Then on January 11th, we have our new moon of the month. It's happening at 6:57 a.m. EST. And I'm saying it's Gandanta because it's like within minutes. So the Gandanta zone is 24 degrees, 40 minutes rather, of water sign until 3.2 of the next fire sign. So as you can see, this new moon is right on the cusp of being Gandanta and having that energy there of Mercury. And Mercury is Gandanta for this too. You see down here where it says ME, he's at 3 degrees, 8 minutes. And so, yeah, up until 3 degrees, 20 minutes, he's Gandanta. So this energy is intense, y'all. On a side note, I will say that it's interesting that, the Cathedral of Notre Dame is finally getting finished. And this is 4 years later after it burned. And when it burned, it was when Jupiter was in Sagittarius. And the day that it went retrograde in Sagittarius is when the cathedral went down. So how interesting that we see here, Mars and Jupiter are in a Parivarta yoga for this new moon. What does that mean? Well, Mars is in Jupiter's sign and Jupiter is in Mars' sign of Aries. So they are exchanging each other's signs. What does that mean? Well, it's like they're in their own signs. It's like Jupiter's in Sag and Mars is in Aries. And that's their Mula Tricona signs, their best signs, right? I think this is going to give us finally some positive energy. The world has seen enough evil. We need to, cling to the fire of hope and inspiration during this time. Cling to the fire of faith. And I feel this is what this is about. Now, the nakshatra of Purva Ashada literally means declaration of war. So take note. I saw today that the United States and the UK are pretty much declaring war on Yemen over their control of the Red Sea. So we could see an actual declaration of war at this time, but it's not looking good for either one of those countries, I have to say. Being in the United States, following the news, seeing all these things open up that, the world should have known 75 years ago, but because of social media, we know now. Yeah, a lot of truth is going to come out during this time too. And, okay, declaration of war, let's unpack that a little bit. These are also our preachers. Um, you know, declaration of war doesn't necessarily have to mean war, but it's more like um, declaring your faith, declaring your truth. Um, a lot of rock stars have Purva Ashada because it's ruled by Venus. And so, it doesn't have to be somebody declaring war, but somebody standing on a podium, giving a lecture, right? Like a professor, giving a sermon like a preacher. This is also the energy of Purva Ashada. So there's going to be a lot of people declaring their faith, people declaring their beliefs, um, standing up for the truth, maybe declaring war on evil. Um, all of those issues are going to be very, very highlighted during this time. And also, obviously, Jupiter and Mars are in an exact trine to each other. They're both in a fire sign. Just because you have a parivartana doesn't mean it's a trine, right? It has to be the right elements. Um, so I feel like Jupiter is really emboldening and empowering this new moon. So yeah, pay attention to what's going on in the outer world. It's going to be very interesting. Now, for the United States, our ascendant is Sagittarius. So this is happening in our first house. And like I said, Sag is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the lord of the new moon for this day, and he falls into the fifth house. Um, Fifth house is what? Children, education, speculation, such as the stock market. This actually could be really good for the stock market. I've heard reports that the interest rate, the federal interest rate for mortgages will change 3 times this year. So I think this is a sign that, the economy may pick up finally, because inflation is just out of control. I cannot believe how expensive groceries are. And a lot of this is because of the drought, right? We're just not able to grow as much. For instance, fresh cranberries. When I went to buy cranberries at the grocery, they said, "Oh no, we sold out, a month ago. Nobody has any." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because of the drought. They just didn't get as good of a harvest this year." And also this happened last year too. So yeah, we need some help with just everyday living expenses going down. So having this in the fifth house might actually be good. Let's see what else is going. Well, Venus is in Scorpio in the 12th house. Venus in the 12th, she does great there because that's the Pisces house in the traditional system, right? And Venus is exalted in Pisces. So this usually indicates like money coming from overseas. Um, or money going to overseas, maybe. I don't know, spending. We certainly are funding a lot of wars right now, and we need to scale back, take care of our own people. This might be highlighting that. Saturn in the third. Well, there seems to be quite a clamp down on media on the news these days. There's just a lot of manipulation going on. But yeah, but clearly, the emphasis here is on the first house. We've got, Sun and Moon conjunct, obviously, but Mars and Mercury. Now, this is something at the end of the month, they're actually going to be in a planetary war. So we'll get to that. But pay attention to this stuff down here because this is all for the United States first house. Okay. January 14th at 4:14 p.m. EST, we have the sun entering Capricorn. Woohoo! Happy birthday, Capricorns. They're so good at stabilizing their life, at creating, generational wealth. They're so good at organizing and, helping their family to thrive. So we love that about you. And like I said, this is Vedic Sidereal. So if you're wondering why the sun is entering Capricorn on the 14th, go to my website and look at my articles, and you'll see a lot of things I've written about this. And then January 17th, Mars leaves combustion with the sun. Hallelujah. I don't know about you, but for me, this has been, I've had a lot of health problems this year, and my low-grade fever during this Mars combustion has just been crazy. So I myself am excited for Mars to get away from the sun. But I think it's going to help everybody's temperament in general. We're not going to be as aggressive or as, worn out. Also, this burns our energy out when Mars is combust. So thank goodness that is going to change. Then January 18th at 10:27 a.m. EST, we have Venus entering Sagittarius, and she's Gandanta. Wait a second, was she Gandanta for? No, she wasn't Gandanta for the new moon. So, because it has to be at 26 degrees 40 minutes. But for this, when she enters Sagittarius, obviously she'll be Gandanta. So this can just bring in a lot of passion, a lot of karma we need to wrap up with romance, relationships, even money. Gosh, if wherever this is in your chart, you could come into money when Venus is Gandanta, depending on, where she is. But it's definitely, a lot of karma surrounding how we approach relationships. So that will be, a fleeting time. Venus moves pretty fast. She will not be Gandanta for the full moon, which is happening January 25th at 12:55 p.m. EST, and it's happening in Pushya. And if you notice, moon is over here very isolated. And this is called a Kima Druma Yoga, when there are no planets on either side of the moon. No planets, well, we've got K2, 2 houses away, and the ascendant up here. So moon doesn't like to be isolated because moon is our emotions, and it's our mind as well. We say moon is mind in Vedic astrology because you have to make a moral decision about something before you become upset about it. So that's why the moon and the mind are very intertwined. And the secret helper to get Mercury back into balance is the moon. So they have a very symbiotic relationship, and moon's in her own sign of Cancer as well. So very much this full moon is going to be about food, about nourishment, about what nourishes your soul, not just what you put into your mouth, but what do you put into your mind, right? What are the things you do to self-soothe yourself? Those are all ways that we nourish ourselves. How are we nourishing our soul? What kind of spiritual practices are we taking on? Because Pushya is actually associated with educators. And this is because the deity is Brihaspati, he was the sage who later became the planet Jupiter, who is guru to the gods, to the devas. And so, this is a time when, we really, need to nourish our soul with the right kind of spiritual practices and, also cleaning up our diet as well. I mean, January, they call it dry January. So, people are not drinking, they're cleaning up their diet, they're getting back into the swing of things, and we'll be able to really feel it by this full moon, right? So for Washington, D.C., the new moon is happening in Taurus. Taurus is, it's in Rohini, which is the favorite wife of the moon. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so if you notice down here, in 3 days after this, on the 28th, we will have Mars and Mercury in a planetary war. That means they will be fighting over a degree. And when that happens, there's this push-pull energy, right? And you would think that it's the planet that moves on beyond the degree that wins, but it's actually not. They're fighting over the degree. So it's the planet that stays on the degree that wins the degree and wins the planetary war. And so Mars, moves slower than Mercury. And actually, a special rule of Graha Yuddha, this is what planetary war is called, Graha Yuddha, is that Mars always loses. And so, right off the bat, we know that Mercury is the winner here. But Venus is there, and that's the chart ruler for the Washington, D.C. It's in the 8th house, and the 8th house is what? It's the house of transformation. It's the house of our reproductive organs, and this moon is in the sign of the mother. I think during this full moon, we're going to hear some more interesting information about women's health, about the abortion crisis we have right now in this country. For instance, in Texas, we've got this lawsuit. This woman, it has a fatal. Basically, we have politicians acting like they're doctors, and that's just that's got to stop. If a doctor is telling the state that this woman is going to die by continuing to stay pregnant, then that's murder. I mean, they're complicit in murder. So I feel that we're going to hear a lot of stuff coming out around this full moon about that lawsuit. Things got to change, women's health. And I can tell you as a woman who is beyond her reproductive years that once you aren't concerned with your reproductive rights or reproduction in general, society kind of forgets about you. They kind of really don't care anymore. It's very interesting to be on the other side of this. And yeah, so I'm just going to say that this full moon is going to bring up a lot of issues with women's health. And the moon is in the 3rd house. So certainly a lot of news, women in the news, certainly we're going to hear about it at this time. Let's see, what else do we have that's interesting? Well, I mean, Venus is in Jupiter's sign and Jupiter is in Mars' sign. So there's still that Parivartana yoga going on between Jupiter and Mars. And Venus is there. So yeah, there's Jupiter rules law as well. He's the truth, right? So he rules law. Jupiter's in the 12th house. This is concerning, foreign lands. And Mars is the sign of war. It's in the 8th house. So yeah, we're still going to be dealing with a lot of issues with war at this time as well. And then we have January 27th at 2:35 a.m. EST. Uranus goes direct at 45 degrees, 53 minutes of Aries Bharani. Well. This is the start of the energy buildup. Now that Jupiter's direct, Uranus is going direct, and they will come together and conjunct each other on April 20th of this year, or 2024, right? And the last time that they came to an exact conjunction was like the beginning of the 1500s, basically when Ponce de Leon, discovered Florida, right? He was looking for the fountain of youth. So discovering new lands, all things Aries, pioneering, definitely going to hear stuff about, I think the Mars mission, the moon mission, those kinds of things, going to other planets, because Uranus is, odd things. It's things that have to do with the cosmos and the universe. And yeah, so I'm calling it from, January 27th until April 20th. We are going to see a lot of things about colonizing new worlds and also about colonization in general. There's going to be some laws that are going to change. So hooray for that. um, and, you know, because, sorry, because Mars is still in the sign exchange with Jupiter, yeah, the issues of war are continuing with this conjunction that's coming up on April 20th. That might be actually the time when we see a real turnaround in the Middle East. And I don't know how we're going to survive until April 20th, watching these children be killed. But here we are. We have been, as the public, helpless up until now. But April 20th, I think there's going to be a big shift. And there are going to be some laws that change, possibly, people getting charged with war crimes as they should around that time. So, that's a date that I'm definitely looking at for an end to this conflict. And then January 28th at 3 p.m. EST, we have our Graha Yuddha, our planetary war, which is Mars and Mercury at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, Purva Ashada. And this is what I have here. This is when the exact minute and second that Mars enters that degree of 24 degrees. So it happens for I think 2.5 hours is the window. So from, 2:17 till around, 4:30 or 5 o'clock on the 28th is when we have this planetary war. It is in Purva Ashada, again, declaration of war. We could be on the brink of, a real World War III here, because the United States has its back pushed up against a corner, and people are getting bribed to support us. It's not looking good. It's not looking good, being the terrorists of the world. So something's got to change, and I feel like this is going to be a big, big turning point. The 27th, 28th, all the way up until April 20th. And as always, if you are interested in what I have to say, you can go to HindustanAstrology.com. You can book a reading with me, as well as you can purchase my book, Uma's Upayas. It can be found on Amazon in paperback, as well as on Kindle. So, all right, you guys, hope that helps for this month. We're in very, very intense times right now. And, I'm not able to say everything I want to say, but hopefully at some point in the future, I will be able to. But just keep the faith. Remember all those planets in Sagittarius, and that, we can persevere. Humanity can, and throw off the yoke of this evil suppression that we've been under. And that's really what's going on. Like I've said, the United States has their Pluto return right now. Pluto's in the second house, and second house is not just about money, it's about nourishment. It's about family as well. So intense start to this new year. I hope you and your family are doing well, and I pray that, we can come to a spiritual awakening this year. Really, that's what Rahu and Pisces is going to be about, is that people are going to be waking up to the truth, and, things have to change. So I hope that you and your family are safe, and that you have a great January. Thanks. Bye.